Welcome everyone to another episode of the Debating Development Podcast, hosted by Concerned Debates team members, myself, Olga Burdescu-Kavanagh, and my colleague, Leanne O'Neill. It's great to be back in the studio again, and today our podcast will focus once again on interviewing yet another one of our amazing debates adjudicators. We are joined today by a very special guest, Jennifer Gillen. Jenny has been a Concerned Debates adjudicator and volunteer with the Debates Programme and the Active Citizenship Unit since 2017. Before that, she competed in the Debates Programme for 3 years with her team from St. Joseph's College Lucan, reaching the All-Ireland Debates Final in 2016. She went on to complete a degree in Law and History in UCD, followed by a Master's in Public International Law at Leiden University in the Netherlands. For the last 6 months, she has been working as part of the communications team at Concern Head Office in Dublin, but has just finished up to pursue a new role at the Bar Council of Ireland. Welcome, Jenny.
Hello.
As you all know, this is the second podcast in the mini-series where we dive into the origin of when, how, and why our volunteer adjudicators stay with Concerned Debates programme, and what the impact of the debates has on the participating youth on the island of Ireland. Jenny, you've been with the Concerned Debates for the past 4 years as a debates volunteer. However, your engagement with the programme goes so much further than that, back to the days when you were in secondary school, when your very own debates team competed in the programme. Do you mind telling us a little more about how you came to debate in school and what were your first impressions after your first debate?
Yeah, sure. So I started debating with the Concerned Debates in 4th year, I think. So I was about 16. But I'd been the only debating available in school before that was actually in Irish. So I'd done Irish debating for 2 years before that. And I'd kind of gotten into that for all the kind of classic reasons you get into debating, which is I wanted to learn to public speak. I needed to stop being shy. And I felt like that had kind of worked. And I thought it might be a lot easier through English. So I decided to go for the Concerned Debates team that we were forming. But yeah, so for when the motions came up first, the thing that struck me was that they weren't your kind of classic schools debate topics that everyone was so sick of, being handed as a 16-year-old about the voting age or about whether we should wear school uniforms or, whether single-sex schools should be banned. But they were actually like topical issues around stuff that I cared about. And, I had never probably heard of sustainable development at that age, but you'd get a motion and you'd say, oh, if this isn't something that I already care about, it probably is going to be something I will care about after this debate. So that was kind of what drew me into the competition. And I was a lot better at it in English because, managed to get through 2 years of Irish debating without having fluent Irish. So it was a lot easier.
Thank you, Jenny.
Jenny, as you've seen both sides of the programme, from the eyes of a debating student and through the eyes of a volunteer adjudicator, what do you think is the most important thing to remember as a student who is about to embark on their journey of debating?
I think when I started debating, in school, I think it was very much seen as a very academic thing to do and kind of an extension of a thing that the smart kids did. And as I've kind of gone through the debates program and adjudicated other debates, like I've really come to see that there's no one way to debate. So, don't feel locked out of the debates program if English isn't your strongest subject. English was actually my worst subject. I feel so much better, like I feel like I'm so much better at expressing myself through words, through spoken word rather than through writing. And you really see that like going through the program that, the kids that might be like expressing things in a funny way or like they might have like a drama background are wonderful debaters, but they might not be encouraged by their school or feel like that kind of setting is a place for them. So really just if you're going to get into debating, you don't have to fulfill this idea of what you think a debater sounds like and sound as smart as possible, but just like how do you understand the world? How do you understand these topics that you're being given? And it's all about just communicating that in a way that's like authentic to you. Really.
Great, thank you. And what about from the adjudicator side of things? So what should a volunteer keep in mind during and after debates?
I think I'm kind of answering this the same way as a student would look at it, of not to have a one idea of what a good debater is. In the concern debates, I feel, are quite unique because of the marking scheme, that they're actually quite heavily weighted in favour of understanding of the subject and kind of quality of the arguments, which we didn't start reading the marking schemes when I was debating until kind of the end of our second year of debating and onto the third year, which is coincidentally when we got a lot better. But to, not be, of course, you're human when you're adjudicating a debate and you're going to be taking it in by the best presenters, but to be aware of your own kind of biases and to really pay attention to how much does this person understand the topic they've been given. Are they able to, if they're able to explain it in simple terms, they might know it a lot better than the person who's using big vocabulary, and to really recognise that in the marking scheme. So really to just not have a set idea of what you're looking for, and also to be open to being persuaded at all times during the debate. To never, if you feel yourself like thinking that, oh, this team is running away with it, you're just going to be, like, it's been shown to me time after time that one person will come up and just completely change your perspective on it. And at all times you need to be ready to reflect that in your marking, I think.
Great, thanks. And you were one of the students who got to debate pre-COVID, where the travel restrictions were not an issue, and you actually got to travel to different schools all around Ireland and debate in classrooms, seeing your opponents in person. Tell us a bit about that and what goes on behind the scenes before debates kick off.
Okay, it's a long while back. Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's a lot easier to learn how to pronounce people's names, which has been a bit of an issue in our online debates with the schools coming on and asking us, could we get the other school to tell us how to pronounce their names, because you can actually have a conversation with your opponents beforehand, which is really nice and just kind of takes a lot of the stress out of it, because you're just a bunch of teenagers really talking about things you care about. But it's kind of a funny situation that you don't really find yourself in any other part of school life, of you and your team show up at another secondary school, and when else are you going to be like in your school uniform in another secondary school, like seeing how it feels like you've like stepped into an alternate reality sometimes, because you're walking down the corridors of like someone else's like everyday reality. But basically you just go in, they give you a classroom to rehearse in. And then the debate itself is usually held in a library if there is one, or in a big classroom. There's actually a few people there, It's not the best attended like social event of the season or anything, but it is nice to have your friends and family there to laugh at your attempts at humour during your debate, which really helps, and just to feed off a bit when you're talking. And then afterwards, you do get a chance to kind of chat to the other team. And we made some great friends out of debating, actually. And you'll often find that the other team, maybe when they first got the motion, they agreed with the other side, and then they had to do a lot of research. And it's just nice to kind of have that chat afterwards and not leave it as your only interaction being rebuttals, because they can get a little argumentative. And there's tea and cake, which is definitely a plus.
We don't have that in the online debating.
No. Thank you, Jenny. So what was the most memorable debate for you, and why?
Our most memorable debate, there were a lot of them, but probably in 2016, which was the last year we did the debates, and it was the semi-final, actually, not the final. I think the final was too much of a blur, because we were just being kind of... we'd have an interview. Also, we didn't win our final, so I think maybe it's like memorable for different reasons. But the semi-final always sticks in my head because it was in King's Inns, and we were debating in this beautiful, like the main kind of dining room in the King's Inns. And I went to an all girls school, so it was four girls on my team, and you're debating in a hall that's surrounded by portraits of almost exclusively men, which I quite liked. And we were against a team which was all boys as well, but that didn't really matter. It then turned out that one of the boys on that team, I ended up sitting beside on my first day of my degree, which was funny because I kind of was like, like, did we debate against each other last year? And it was him. But that debate was fantastic because it was Britain should remain. And it was 2016. It was a few weeks before the referendum. And we had been given the side of, we were opposition. And we thought we had it like so tough. We were like, no one is ever going to go for this argument that they should leave the EU. And then we won the debate and we were like, how did we pull that one off? And then like fast forward 3 weeks and we were like, we called it. We absolutely called it. Someone like leaked our debate arguments. They were that good. But that was just a fantastic. And that was, you know, when we knew we would be in the final, and it was just such a lovely setting. And the first kind of debate with a bit of like a good bit of atmosphere as well, because we had a lot of support. And yeah, that one always stands out to me.
Fantastic. And what was your favourite motion to debate?
I think it was actually one of the ones in the league rounds, or the first ones. It was on multinational corporations. I think it was phrased like multinational corporations are cleaning up their act. And it was my favourite motion, but also a motion that has kind of ruined my life, because once you start seeing the greenwashing, which is what our arguments kind of focused around, you can't unsee it. So we did a lot of research into like Coca-Cola and Nestle and you know, greenwashing in fast fashion with like eco-conscious collections and the like. And it gave me a lot of fuel to have a lot of arguments with people in my life, or, you know, just inform them, but which they, you know, didn't ask for or particularly enjoy. But it's something that then got me into like thinking more about sustainability and like questioning the messages that you get kind of thrown at you every second of every day by marketing. And it's probably the motion that has stuck with me for the longest. And I think that was my first introduction to any kind of greenwashing or kind of like corporate CSR messaging that I now definitely take with a pinch of salt.
How fascinating. Jenny, could you tell us more about 2016, the year you debated in school and made it to the All-Ireland final?
Sure. 2016... yeah, it was a good year for debating. A lot went on that year. But we were all in 6th year at the time, and it was our 3rd year debating, but we just didn't want to give it up, which was probably something that the 4th years who really wanted to debate, because I'm not sure if schools can enter more than one team now.
Still not.
Just
Still
one
not,
team per
just
school,
one team.
yeah. I think they were pretty eager to get into the concerned debates as well. But we didn't want to give up our seats. We had earned them. We were going to do it this year, you know, we were committed. But it was also a nice break from leaving cert study to focus on the debates topics, because it was the only area of school really where I felt it was so topical, and you were talking about things that were in the news, and you know, it could come to the day of your debate and something will have gotten released that morning and you'd have to change your argument because it was no longer relevant or your source was out of date. And as frustrating as that was at the time, it was something I really loved, because every other subject very much felt like you were learning out of a book, and that, you know, maybe your parents had studied the same play for Irish at Leaving Cert, or you know, you were just repeating a pattern. So this felt very in motion at all times, and just it used a different part of my brain, which I actually found very cathartic to do alongside like Leaving Cert study. And then we were doing well, so we were just, you know, the momentum kept going, and it was a fantastic way to really end our school years.
Beautiful. And did your participation in the Concerned Debates programme have any impact at all on your college, degree choices, or even career path?
Yeah, definitely. Before the debates, or even kind of coming into the last year, well, I kind of changed my career path or intentions, you know, 7 or 8 times during 6th year. I knew I loved history, and I wasn't doing history for the Leaving Cert because there was a lot of 1960s Irish history, which I didn't want to study particularly. And now I'm like, I need to be more committed to my country. I should have just studied it, and now I just don't have the knowledge that I feel like I should have. But then the debates kind of introduced me to UN bodies. You know, COP21 was another motion that we did. Sustainable Development Goals, all about the UN institutions. So for the first time, I was like, what's that all about? Well, how do I study that in college? But paired with, you know, my passion for history, and a lot of the motions actually tie into like historical events, which I found I would talk about a lot. So I came across law with history then with an intention to look at international law. And that is what I ended up studying. But it was very much like the debates gave me a desire to study something that I could apply later in life or put into action, that wasn't just kind of like research for research's sake, which was always kind of my struggle with history, that I loved the stories, but then I didn't know what I would do with them. So then I came across law with history and I thought, it's good, I can learn the theory and then I can put it into practice later in life and communicate a message and maybe go into policy or something along those lines.
Brilliant. And Jenny, tell us, what would your advice be to anyone listening to our podcast? Let's say it's a student who might consider taking part in the debates program this year, or even from the side of things for a volunteer or a potential volunteer, because we do know that the program is supported by a fantastic group of volunteer adjudicators who come back to the program year after year. But we also know that there is a lot of potential volunteers out there who might be interested in supporting the program and taking part in the debates as a volunteer adjudicator. What would your advice be to those people and to a potential student who's considering joining the debates team this coming fall?
Okay. A couple different markets there. Not sure if I'm the best person to be giving advice on anything, to be honest, but I suppose for a adjudicator, I would say just go for it and ignore that hesitancy in your head that says you might not know enough about these topics, because you know, I've studied I've done the studies now, and still I look at these motions when I get a notification of going to adjudicate something and I say, I don't know enough about that. Like, how can I, you know, make any kind of assessment on how well these young people are analysing these issues if I don't know enough about it? But I'd say you don't have to be an expert, and the art of debating is about informing and convincing people, and that's part of the skill, is that you should come away from it you know, feeling like you have a good handle on the topic. And this is always how I felt writing debates, that like assume no prior knowledge. And, you know, if you're going in without having done the research, then, you know, you're just a better vehicle to be convinced. So yeah, and it'll do wonders for you. Like it you know, sometimes when you're looking at the news and you're reading a lot of negative stories, and it's very easy to get disheartened. So I really look forward to going to a debate, and you know, even if you have a good think about the topic, there'll always be an approach that will surprise you, and it'll be really innovative and something that you would have never thought of, because even like the generation gap I see between myself and the current participants in the debates program, it's just a different way of looking at things, and it's really, really nice to see. So yeah, I would just say go for it, and it's going to add so much to your life, and really keep you up to date on a lot of issues without you having to do the research yourself. I mean, it's wonderful. You have like these really amazing 8 young people who will do the research for you and present it to you in an entertaining and engaging way. Like no one wants to just read the newspaper for that. Why not get a show? And then in terms of a young person, yeah, I would say like if you're not the most academic person, if you don't think you're like great at English or great with words, but you care about these issues, like that will come across completely. And if you know, you're looking at this stuff on TikTok or on Instagram and that's what convinced you, like these are all things that you can apply to your debates. Like you don't have to be an expert in reading academic papers. Like, yeah, your sources matter, but if you get emotion and it's something that you care about and you like want to tell other people about, that's what matters. And the rest is all something that can be learned. It's the passion that can't be learned. So to just ignore anyone who kind of says that you don't have the skills, because the most unassuming people turn into amazing debaters.
Beautifully put. Thank you so much. And Jenny, what level of experience does a volunteer need to have to be able to adjudicate a concerned debate online or in person? Because we do know that the in-person element will return next year at a later stage in the programme.
Well, for online, the ability to turn on a laptop helps. But apart from that, I really don't think any special skills are required. The motions are phrased in an accessible way, so you're not there to come to a determination on who's right and who's wrong. You are marking off a marking scheme, and the marking scheme has kind of done the work for you. As in, like, you just have to say, do they know their stuff? Have they presented it well? Was there rebuttals? Were their sources things that sounded legitimate? And all of that will ensure that you pick the right person. So it's not a huge burden that you feel like you are making a grand determination. Like, you're judging a set of criteria, and you will make the right decision as long as you follow that. In person, I think it's very easy to it's a lot easier when you're with other people when you're starting out. And if you don't want to be a chief adjudicator at first, that's more than fine. All the chief adjudicator does is gives a bit of feedback at the end of the debate, which is actually quite a lovely element, because it's the first time you get to really thank and engage with the speakers who have spoken to you for the last hour, and to just really commend them. And there's some things that adjudicators said to me over the years that just like really encouraged me and stuck with me. So it's lovely to be able to have that effect. But yeah, so if you want to start being an assistant adjudicator, you'll probably find schools in your area. It's not a huge undertaking. Do 2 or 3 at first and see if you like it, and more than likely you will. And you'll keep coming back.
Thank you so much for that.
As many programmes had to evolve and change due to the COVID-19 pandemic, so did the debates programme, when all schools were asked to debate online. What is your experience with adjudicating debates online on the debates platform?
Yeah, I did find that quite a different experience. I really, at the start, the online debates were pre-recorded videos, so there was no element of rebuttal between the teams, which is obviously a huge element of the debates, and a huge part of it being a team sport and a proposition opposition situation. So that was a little difficult, but it was way better than stopping the program altogether. And since then we've started doing live debates on Zoom, which has really like brought back the spirit of the competition, which I found. And yeah, the only thing that really is left, which will definitely be resumed next year, is the kind of sense of informal camaraderie and relationships you can form outside of the debate. But it was, as good as we were going to get at the start of COVID, and then improved over time, like everything. There was a very steep learning curve with technology. And yeah, but hopefully we'll be back to full in-person capacity soon.
Thank you so much, Jenny. And Jenny, you finished up with the Concern Communications team this week.
Yes.
Where is your career taking you next?
So yeah, for the last 6 months, I've been on the communications team. I never really intended to go into communications. I really just loved Concern so much as an organisation. And then this job came up, and I went in with very open that I didn't have comms experience, and I got it, and I learned so much just about how Concern like communicates their message and like chooses what messages to communicate, because I don't think I was really fully aware of the scale of work across like 23 countries, and the logistics of like sending a photographer out to get all the photos, and how every photo, the consent is gotten, and there's they're all beneficiaries from a specific program that's been been designed specifically for that context with the help of experts. And so that's just been such an enlightening experience about comms, and like the effectiveness of making sure that that message is heard and received. So I am continuing in a comms role, but bringing back in a bit of my law experience. I'm going to be working on the communications team at the Bar Council of Ireland come Monday. I will be responsible for their special bar associations, so groups of barristers in different practice areas, and they all have their own policy goals and communications goals. So I will be there to support that work. So I'm very excited to see what I can do there. But who knows what the future holds, really.
Wonderful. Indeed. As our volunteer adjudicators and debates mentors in school know, we could not have migrated to an online program without our amazing volunteer adjudicators. And it's something that we have been saying for the past few years. We realised that over the course of the pandemic, a large group of events were either cancelled, put on hold, or had to be shelved. And it's something that our volunteers enabled us to carry on, keep the program on the run and on the road, and continue engaging with youth all across the island of Ireland. And we couldn't have done the work we do without our amazing volunteers. So once again, massive thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
We are truly grateful for all the support that our debates adjudicators show and continue to show our debates programme. And we are looking forward to having you all involved in 2022-2023 school year. And for anyone wishing to join our volunteer team with the debates programme, we ask that you simply log on to www.concern.net or drop us an email to debates@concern.net.
Or you can check us out on social media. We're at Concern Debates on Twitter or Concern Active on Instagram.
Jenny, thank you from the heart for kindly agreeing to join us today. And thank you for the continued support you show to the debates programme.
Thanks so much. And what a nice afternoon it's been to wrap up my time in Concern.
Wonderful. And we indeed will miss you. And I'm sure the communications team will miss you as well. Anyone who has ever had to interact with you through their job in Concern will undoubtedly miss you. And thank you all for listening. And we hope you tune in to hear the next episode on www.concern.net or on the Concern Worldwide YouTube channel or SoundCloud by typing Debating Development. I will wrap up by repeating what I said on our last episode when one of our founders of Concern Worldwide, Father Angus Finucane, used to say, "Do as much as you can, as well as you can, for as many as you can, for as long as you can." And on that note, we would also like to thank Irish Aid for all the support offered to the Concern Schools programme. Until next time.